sing for all that you've done for me.
I'll go ahead and have a seat for a couple minutes. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page and all know what's going on. After church today, Whitney would like to have a BBS meeting with those of you who are going to help us out with that. It's not until June, but the way time moves, it'll be here before we know it. So June 5th through 9th, we've got our submerged BBS with the underwater thing. So if you'd like to help with that, or if you already told us you're helping out with it, you're helping out with it. So stay after church today and we'll try to work out some more things logistically and try to get some more plans set for that. Thursday evening, Thursday is the National Day of Prayer, so Thursday we're going to try to go ahead and head something up and invite all the churches in our community to join us down here at the city stage from 5 to 6 o'clock on Thursday. And we just kind of want to have not a structured service because we want it to be about the prayer, not about the people on the stage or singing or whatever it may be. So we're just going to have kind of a come and go prayer meeting from 5 to 6 o'clock at the city stage in town here with some different stations, some different kind of focuses of things that we'd like to pray for, that we'd like to ask God to do in our midst. So we would love for you to be there if you can Thursday from 5 to 6. And let other people in our area from other churches know. We'd like for as many people as can be on board with that to be on board with that. Anything else we need to share or announce this morning? What? Items of the month for our local shoeboxes, soap and body wash. So if you could be bringing in soap and body wash as our items of the month for the local shoeboxes that the Junction, in partnership with several different churches, put together and give out to local kids in our community at Christmas time, that would be awesome. So body wash and soap are the items of the month. Anything else? Cool. I didn't let you sit down and rest too long, but let's stand up and pray and continue in some worship this morning. Father, we're so thankful for this opportunity that we have to gather in your house in your name with your people. Father, I'm thankful that even if it's rainy and nasty and ugly outside, even if the problems of life seem really ugly outside, even if, Father, the situations that we have at home or at work or with friends may be ugly outside, but Father, inside these four walls we can find our refuge, not in this place, but in your presence. So help us, Father, to find our refuge in you this morning, to give you praise and worship that you deserve. And Father, I just ask that as we sing your praises this morning, that you inhabit the praises of your people, that your presence is free to move in our midst and speak to hearts this morning. Father, as we look into your word in a few moments, would you speak to us in a fresh and a new way from it? Challenge us this morning. Father, give us the courage and the boldness to be who you've called us to be this morning. Would you just be in the midst of all that we do and settle down in our midst and move among us today? We ask this all in your name. Amen.
That last song, I was paying attention to the words at the end. It says, you laid down your life that I could be set free. You know, the word says that whom the Son sets free is free indeed. How many of us know that we have power in the name of Jesus?
Amen.
That's kind of weak. Let's do that again. How many of you know that you have power in the name of Jesus? Amen. We have power. So we don't have to be in bondage to anything, no matter what that is. We don't have to be in bondage. We can be free in Christ.
There is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus to break every chain, break every chain, break every chain, to break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. There is power in the name of Jesus. Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. I know there is power in the name of Jesus.
next song is titled Lord, I Need You. And Lord knows that I need Him. But I find myself so many times just trying to do things on my own. And every single time after time, I fall flat on my face. So we're going to sing this song as a work in progress for me, because I need to realize that I need Him in everything. Not just the big things, but the little things and the daily things. I need Him every hour of every day.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see I once was blind. Now my last song sings, and now my last song sings, and now my last song sings. I once was dead, but now I live. I once was dead, but now I live. And now my life to you I give. Now my life to you I give. Now my life to you I give. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, let my last song sing to you. Hallelujah, hallelujah, let my last song sing to you. Hallelujah, hallelujah, let my last song sing to you. Hallelujah, hallelujah, let my last song sing to you.
Amen. Go ahead and dismiss our kids to go over for their time. I'm just kind of curious this morning, and I don't do this kind of thing often, but by a show of hands, how many of you got a weak stomach? Okay, oh, they're all kind of concentrated right here. We got vomit row over here. That's good. Of all the things to call you. Whitney would probably tell you that if I'm honest this morning, I might have the weakest stomach of anybody in the room. Probably, maybe, of anybody that ever lived on some things. Like getting Grayson through diapers was like the greatest test and trial and season of my life. Like, you couldn't believe how difficult it was for me sometimes to just not throw up. And how, I don't know why. We went from like this awesome praise and worship moment to let me talk about vomit. You'll see where I'm going in a minute. But, like sometimes when things are, I'm just oversharing right now, but sometimes when things are just really gross, it's just really hard for me to not just like vomit. And like when I do, it's not like one of those like little ladylike things of bleh. It's like everybody in McRoberts heard like, what was that? It's not good. But babies, back to Grayson, babies, you know what babies do in diapers. And I'll be really honest, and I hope this doesn't gross you out, but when they go number 2, like if it's a nice, firm, balled up number 2, I'm good. Like you can get in there, like, get out, we're good. Like I can survive one of those. Wipey, wipey, wipey. No big deal. But sometimes, babies, well, it's a little mushy. And like, okay, can we just talk babies? Like normal people, we have number 1 and we have number 2. I think babies have number 3. That is just a big, blown out mess. Some of you are going, where did I come to church this morning? But you know what I'm talking about. There's this number 3 that is just like, nope. And I'm like, give me the gas mask, give me the rubber gloves. I'm going in. Whitney's not home. What am I going to do? And so I'm literally in here just like baby barfing in my mouth, trying to get this thing all done, throw it out the door, and we're good. In fact, Whitney would probably tell you this, that sometimes like I would just like get barely into the diaper and then it would be like, babe. And really it wasn't even smart of me to open my mouth because then I was making myself vulnerable. If things did happen, it was going to be worse. But sometimes I would just have to scream, "Babe," and she knew what it meant. Things you didn't expect to do this morning. Everybody say vomit. Things you didn't expect to do in church this morning. What kind of church did I visit? You'll see why I had to do that later on. Well, thank you for dealing with my oversharing confession today about dealing with number 2 in babies. I'm glad I kind of worked that out this morning. We're actually in week 3 of a message series that we've been going through for the past few weeks called The Christian Atheist. And if you missed the first couple of weeks of this series, you might sit down this morning and say, wait, what is a Christian atheist? And the idea behind it is, well, we know what an atheist is, right? An atheist is someone who doesn't believe in God. And so if a person is an atheist and they don't believe in God, then they're going to live like God doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that atheists are horrible people. I know some atheists that are really, really good contributing citizens. But what we're talking about in this series is this whole idea of a Christian atheist. What is a Christian atheist? The Christian atheist is a term that Craig Groeschel made up. Craig Groeschel, who I kind of ripped this series off from. He wrote a book called The Christian Atheist that the idea kind of came from. But a Christian atheist is somebody who says, I believe in God, but then they live their lives like He doesn't exist. So a Christian atheist is somebody who believes in God, but lives their life as if He doesn't exist. And so in week 1 we talked about people who believe in God, but they don't really know God, right? I believe that He exists. I believe God's out there. I think God's good, but they don't really know Him. They don't really have a relationship with Him. And then last week we talked about people who believe in God, but don't really fear Him. And next week we're going to talk about people who believe in God, but don't really trust Him fully. Like, I believe you, God, I believe in you, God, but I'm not gonna give you every area of my life. I'm not going to trust you with all of those things. Today may be, I think I might have said this last week, today may be my favorite of the 4, and it's probably the hardest hitting one of the 4. Because we're going to talk about people this morning who believe in God, but don't want to go overboard. People who would say, like, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus, but I don't want to be one of those Christians that are like fanatics. I don't want to be one of those people who are just like all into it, going crazy about Jesus. Like, I believe in God, but I don't want to be one of those people who takes it too far. And in fact, this morning, we're going to look in the book of Revelation in chapter 3. And if you've been hanging around with us for a while, you'll know that not that long ago we did a series. And we went through in Revelation chapter 2 and 3, we looked at these 7 churches that Jesus wrote letters to. And I really, really kind of wrestled and argued about this one. And God said, you're going to preach on Revelation 3 in the church at Laodicea again. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to preach on the church at Laodicea again, because a wise person once told me, when Jesus said yes, nobody can say no. You remember that? That was a long time ago when we were talking about starting this church. But I want to give us a little bit of context about what we're looking at and who we're reading about in Revelation chapter 3. Because again, in Revelation chapters 2 and 3, Jesus actually writes 7 different letters to 7 different churches. Or in other words, He writes one letter to 7 different churches. 7 individual letters to these 7 churches. And so, as with the book of Revelation, John the Revelator, records these letters and he writes down what Jesus inspires him to write. And to 6 of these churches, Jesus had something positive to say, right? He said, you're doing this well and you're doing this well, but let's talk about maybe some things that you could work on. And then there was this one particular church, and Jesus didn't even throw them a bone at all. Like, He didn't say, you did good with this and this and this. He just kind of went straight to the core and spent the whole time telling this church what they're doing wrong. Like, there's no good news to come before the bad news. Like, you've goofed up. Here's what's going on. And that's the church that we're going to look at today. It's the church known as Laodicea. So let me give you a little background again on the city of Laodicea that Jesus is sending this letter to. Laodicea was a really, really, really wealthy city. And in fact, 35 years before this letter is sent, before Jesus inspires this letter and John writes it, the city of Laodicea had actually been destroyed by this massive earthquake. But because Laodicea was so wealthy, they were able to completely rebuild from that earthquake. And they were known for like their really nice, really opulent stuff that they have in Laodicea. Like they had massive theaters, and they had huge stadiums, and they had these lavish public baths, which were really popular at the time, which is really weird to me. And they had massive shopping centers. Like, imagine, like if you have ever been to Las Vegas. I haven't, but imagine you've been to Las Vegas and you're cruising through the desert, and all of a sudden there's this giant rich city. That's kind of what Laodicea was. Or a better example might even be, if we're thinking like a modern day example in the world, might be this Dubai. Where you're cruising along in the desert, and all of a sudden, boom, there's this giant rich city, and they've got roller coasters inside of buildings, and they've got giant shopping centers, and they've got all kinds of cool stuff out in the middle of the desert. So this group of people that Jesus is talking to is a very wealthy, very financially blessed group of people. So these are the people that Jesus is writing to. And beginning in Revelation 3, verse 15, he said, I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. In verse 17, he says, you say, I am rich. I've acquired wealth, and I do not need a thing. But you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. And then even in spite of what Jesus said to them in those verses, if you skip down to verse 20, Jesus gives them the most amazing invitation. He says, here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me. So Jesus, talking to these people, these Christians in Laodicea, talking to this church at Laodicea, says, I know your deeds. And it's important that Jesus phrased it that way and said, I know your deeds. Because Jesus didn't say, I know what you say you believe. Jesus didn't say, I know what you post on Facebook. Jesus didn't say, I know how you act in front of this group of people. Jesus said, I know your deeds. I know how you live. And sometimes, unfortunately, there's a difference between what we say and what we do. There's a difference between what we say we believe and what our life actually demonstrates when the rubber hits the road. And in reality, how we live is the real reflection of what we believe. Like I can know all the right phrases, and I can know all the right scriptures, and I can know all the right churchy, theological words to say. But if it doesn't play out in the way I actually live my life, then I'm living the way that Jesus is talking about when he inspires this letter and writes to this church at Laodicea. And Jesus says, I'm not talking about the way you say you believe, but I actually see the way that you're living your life. And so Jesus looks at this church at Laodicea and he says, I know your deeds, that you are neither hot nor cold. And then he says, I wish you were just one or the other. And it's like when we drink coffee, right? Like when I drink coffee, I want it to be hot. Like I'm okay if it burns the taste buds off the first time I stick it up there. I'll learn my lesson. I'll wait a couple minutes. But I want my coffee hot. Good coffee is hot coffee. Except for some of you. Some of you like iced coffee. Right? I don't like iced coffee. I think that is like an oxymoron. That's a weird way to do things. But there are people who like iced coffee. People like coffee hot, really hot. People like coffee really cold. How many of you in here love to pick up a good cup of coffee that's been sitting there for 4 hours on the counter? Nobody likes a lukewarm cup of coffee. We don't want lukewarm. Now what's interesting, and I kind of mentioned this when we talked about Laodicea when we went through the series, but if you study about Laodicea, because again, they're kind of out in the middle of the desert, there were some challenges that affected this city of Laodicea. So they had some challenges getting water to them. And so they had these long underground pipes. And they would ship in water both from hot springs and from cool springs. So that even 2,000 years ago, these people had hot running water and cold running water. They were that rich. They were that kind of advanced and influential city. But what's interesting is they wanted that water to get there as fast as it could possibly get there, right? Because once the water gets there and it travels from the hot spring, it's not going to stay hot really long. Or when it gets there and it's traveled from that cold spring, it's not going to get there really long. So actually being able to get your hands on the ice cold or the piping hot water was a real premium, was a real precious commodity for you to be able to get a hold of. And they would have these religious festivals where they would sacrifice and prepare their hearts to make sacrifices. And if you were an important person, or you were an extremely rich person, or you were a noble person, then you were considered to be the highest people in society, so you got your drink first. In other words, if you were important, you always got a hot drink or a cold drink. And then if you weren't so important, then you kind of just got pushed back to the back of the line. And by the time you got up to the front of the line, both of them kind of were the same. They all kind of just tasted lukewarm. So when Jesus uses this terminology to this specific church at Laodicea and says, hey, you guys are lukewarm, and because you're lukewarm, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth, he wasn't just implying the fact that they were lukewarm, but he's also implying that, hey, the way that you're living your lives is dishonoring me. Because they knew that important people got the hot or got the cold, but the unimportant people that got pushed to the back of the line, they got lukewarm. And Jesus says, really? You're giving me the lukewarm. I'm not important enough in your life that I get the most or I get your best, but I'm somewhere down here on the rung of the ladder of your life, and you eventually get to me, and all I get is the lukewarm. I don't get the very best of your life. See, there's an underlying context there. Not only is he saying you're neither hot or cold, you're lukewarm, but he's saying the fact that you bring me the lukewarm, the fact that what you give me of your life is not your very best, shows that you are dishonoring me. So let's look at verse 16 again. He says, so because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I'm about to do what? He says, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. Now the word spit there, it comes from a Greek word that is only used one time in the Bible. And this little word literally means to spit, and it also has an alternate translation that means to vomit. Hey, we said vomit twice in church. But it means utter rejection. It means to be utterly repulsed. Like if you eat an egg salad sandwich, and it's a bad egg salad sandwich, what does your body do to that egg salad sandwich without getting too detailed? It's gross, but it rejects it. And it comes out quickly. And it sometimes comes out violently. And really, and that's gross, but if we're going to deal with this text and we're going to really look at what Jesus said, then I think we need to make it live, make it come to life. Like if we take in a bad egg salad sandwich that's been sitting out and lukewarm and is not good at all, our body is going to reject it. And what Jesus says to this church at Laodicea, and what he's saying to us today is, when you don't show any passion at all, when you are just totally apathetic, when you are just complacent, when you are just comfortable in your pursuit of me, when you're lukewarm, Jesus says, I can't take that. I can't stomach that. I reject that. I'm repulsed by that. And from the deepest part of me, I can't tolerate it. And so he says literally, I vomit that out. I spit that back out. I spew that back out. Completely and just supremely repulsed by this. Now those are some hard words. That this is not like the smiley gospel. I've really never been accused of that, but this is not like the most uplifting, happy message in the world. But man, these are the words of Jesus. And Jesus says, if we don't get this right, if we don't give him our full pursuit, if we aren't passionate, burning after him, he's going to just vomit us out of his mouth because he's repulsed by not getting our very best. He's repulsed when what we offer him is the lukewarm leftovers and we stick him at the end of the line. Now, how many of you know what an oxymoron is? An oxymoron is when you take two different words and they are complete opposite, but you put them together into a phrase. And we say things like, act naturally, genuine imitation, jumbo shrimp, airline food, government efficiency, Microsoft works. I users in the house that got that one. But I think really that the greatest oxymoron in the history of humankind would be lukewarm Christian. Because those words don't go together. A lukewarm disciple of Jesus, a lukewarm follower of the Son of God, a lukewarm Christian. And really, what is a lukewarm Christian? I think we could stand around and we could brainstorm and I could get a whiteboard and we could think of all different things that really describe a lukewarm Christian. But what I thought I would do this morning is put together a list of 7 qualities of a lukewarm Christian. I think we could come up with a list of 70 different qualities if we wanted to. This is not an exhaustive list. So just because it's not on the list this morning doesn't mean that you're not lukewarm. But I wanted us to look at 7 examples of attitudes that a lukewarm Christian might have, or phrases that a lukewarm Christian might say, just based on my own experience in my Christian walk, based on my experience as a pastor, dealing with other people and their issues. And chances are this morning when we go through this list, when we go through these 7 things, chances are that you're going to see these 7 qualities and you're going to be apt to think this morning like, man, I know somebody who's like that. I know somebody who believes in God but doesn't want to go overboard. I know somebody who would say that phrase right there. But that's not what we're here for. Some of you, if you're really honest this morning, you might say, oh, I kind of see a little bit of myself in some of these. And that's really what I want us to do. I don't want us to be concerned about other people. I want us to search our own hearts and our own selves and let the Holy Spirit really search our hearts this morning. So what are the qualities of those who we might call a lukewarm Christian? The first one, if you're taking notes, is this: they crave acceptance from people more than acceptance from God. Timothy, in the Bible, and man, I had revival yesterday at my house while I was mopping floors. My dad had Grayson, and Whitney was working, and so I was like, I'm just going to clean the whole house. So I listened to 5 Francis Chan messages in a row. And 3 out of the 5 messages from Francis Chan were about this same passage of Scripture. So I feel like real revived, and at the same time my toes and my shins kind of hurt this morning. But you didn't pay for that. That was just a random ADD moment. Lukewarm Christians crave acceptance from people more than they crave acceptance from God. And Timothy, in the Bible, writes that in the last days, people will be lovers of themselves. And I think, man, can we say that we live in a world where people are lovers of themselves? Amen. Like we live in the selfie-centered generation. We're not just self-centered anymore, we're selfie-centered. And we're constantly craving that approval and that attention from other people. Do you like me? Do you approve of me? Do you like my shoes? Do you like my kicks? Do you like my house? Do you like my hair? Do you like my progress? All of these things. I'll give you another angle. Please approve of me. Please like my picture. Please tell me I fit in. Hey, if you don't like me, I'll conform my morals to your morals because I want you to love me. I want you to accept me. And Jesus actually said this. Jesus said that we should be aware when all men speak well of us. Yes. Jesus said we should be a little worried when everybody speaks well about us. Because if everybody speaks well about us, and everybody approves us, and everybody thinks that we're just the greatest thing ever, we're probably not too radical. We're probably living a little bit of a lukewarm life if everybody is on board with what we do. Amen. Secondly, a lukewarm Christian rarely shares their faith in Christ. A lukewarm Christian is rarely sharing the goodness of God with other people. Why? There are many reasons why lukewarm Christians are not sharing their faith, but we don't want to be weird. We don't want to stick out. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want to offend other people. Honestly, I would argue that at the heart of it, it's because we really don't believe the gospel transforms lives. Because if we really believed that the gospel transforms lives, if we really believed we have the answer to what other people need, we have the solution to their problems, we could help them, we would do everything within our power to share it with them. And if we're content to sit back and not share it when we see other people struggling, when we see people in issues that aren't saved, then that says, I don't really believe this, because if I really did believe it, I'd be willing to share it with other people. And yet we don't want to do it. We don't want to share our faith with other people. And again, Jesus was really clear about this one too, because Jesus said, if you confess me before men on earth, then I'll confess you before my Father in heaven. But if you do not confess me before men on earth, I will not confess you before my Father in heaven. But lukewarm Christians rarely share their faith. Number 3, lukewarm Christians rationalize their sins. Lukewarm Christians rationalize their sins. We live in a world, we live in a day and age where, people really just kind of rebrand their sins so it's not as bad. Like we don't call adultery, we call it an affair. Because it sounds a little bit softer. It doesn't sound quite as bad. We don't call it profanity, we call it adult language. Because it doesn't sound as bad. Like, hey kids, you can't drop the F-bomb now, but when you turn 18, it's all good because you're an adult. That's adult language. We just kind of try to rebrand it and rationalize it. So we're rebranding and we're renaming sin to make it seem and make it sound more acceptable. And it's easy for us sometimes to say things like, well, I'm not as bad as so-and-so. Or it's my life, I can do whatever I want to do with it. Or who are you to judge me? Or stay out of my life, this isn't hurting anybody anyway. And we've gotten really good at rationalizing our sin all day long.
Amen.
And we might be more guilty of it in the church than outside.
Amen.
Because we want to say things like, it's just gossip. It's just a lie. It's just a bad attitude. It's not like I'm out there making meth. It's not like I'm out there stealing. It's just a little gossip. And we rationalize that there somehow is this hierarchy of big sins and little sins, when sin is sin.
Amen.
And God deserves better than a lukewarm life that I've allowed sin to creep into.
Amen.
Number 4, the lukewarm Christian thinks more about life on earth than eternity in heaven. Lukewarm Christians are consumed with the life that they live on this earth. There's a little guy in the Bible. His name was Paul. You might have heard of him. He wrote a few things in the Bible. And he said something really crazy. Paul said something really radical. He said, to live is Christ and to die is gain. In other words, what Paul says is, to be on earth, my purpose is to represent Jesus, and then when I die, I get to go to heaven. And that's better. That's way better than anything that I have on this earth. Like one day I die and I get to go to heaven. But what do we see on earth? What kind of approach, what kind of mindset do we see even in the church? Now, I don't want to die. 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 I'd rather be 105 hooked up to every machine in the world and wearing diapers than die, because I don't want to die. We're so consumed with this life. We're so consumed with the temporary things of this earth that are going to pass away. This life is just but a vapor in the grand scheme of eternity. We get so wrapped up with this little bit of time period that we have on earth that we forget about eternity.
Amen.
And we forget that the purpose that we're really here for is so that we can impact eternity. So that we can share with people, so that we can bring the gospel that means good news. So we can bring the good news to people who need to hear it, and we can see lives changed. Number 5. Lukewarm Christians only turn to God when they need something. Oh, they'll turn to God. We'll do that, won't we? Like, I'll turn to God when I need something, but when things are going good, when the weather's nice, when my kids are healthy, when nobody's fighting, when I've got money to pay the bills, everything's good, and then whoops, somebody's got cancer. And so we go over like God is just like in our toolbox of life, and we pull out God and say, hey God, I really need you right now. So-and-so's got cancer. I really need you to move. And then, okay, chemotherapy worked. I really need you, God. Everything's good. I'm kind of cruising along. Everything's fine. And then all of a sudden, my kids are in this situation and they're having a ton of trouble. Oh, God, I really need you right now. And we pull them out of the toolbox. And we want to use God for our benefit. Like He's our little genie in a bottle that I can pull out when I need a wish. I need a miracle. God, I really need you right now. And then things are good. I'm just going to put you back. Because I'm not concerned about the relationship. I'm not concerned about sacrifice. I'm not concerned about growth. I'm really only concerned about what God can do for me. Number 6, the lukewarm Christian will give whenever it is convenient. I'll give if I look good doing it. I'll give if I have enough money left over after I buy everything in the world name brand, then I'll give if I have left over after that. I'll give if I want to. But don't you dare ask me to do something I don't want to give. Don't push me, because this is my stuff. This is my money. Mine, 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 mine. But the committed follower of Jesus realizes it's not mine. It's God's. But the lukewarm Christian, how many of you ever seen Finding Nemo? The lukewarm Christian is like those stinking seagulls in Finding Nemo. Mine, 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 mine. And we laugh, but sometimes we really have that kind of mindset. We really have that kind of approach that, man, this is my money, and I need to buy my house, and I need to buy my car, and I need to buy my clothes, and I need to do my stuff. And we don't worry about the fact that it's God's.
Amen.
And He expects us to give a part of that to grow His kingdom on earth with His money that He blessed us with. And the lukewarm Christian will only give when it's convenient. And can I tell you, if you only give when it's convenient, can I tell you when you'll give? Probably never. Unless you're exceptionally wealthy, you'll probably never give because it might not ever really be convenient to do. Number 7, last one. Blanket statement here. When we talk about the lukewarm Christian, if we're going to just sum it all up, the lukewarm Christian is not that much different from the rest of the world.
Amen.
The lukewarm Christian is not that much different from other people. Because let's be honest, the lukewarm Christian watches the same movies as everybody else. Listens to the same music as everybody else. Uses the same filthy language when they lose the ball on the golf course where they stub their toe or whatever as everybody else. They've got the same morals as everybody else. They raise their kids about like everybody else. They get divorced about as often as everybody else. Why? Because we're just like everybody else. Because we've rationalized it and accepted things about like everybody else. It's I want all that God has for me, but I don't want to follow everything He wants me to do. And what we really begin to see Jesus as, if we're living life this way, is we really begin to see Jesus as a fire insurance policy. Like, I want enough Jesus to keep me out of hell. I want enough Jesus to get me into heaven. But I don't want so much of Jesus that it causes me to be one of those people that are like fully consumed and all wrapped up in that spiritual stuff. But we saw earlier what Jesus calls that kind of person. When he wrote this letter to this church at Laodicea, he calls that kind of person lukewarm. And he says that kind of person really makes him want to vomit. He just wants to, he's repulsed by it. He wants to spit that person out of his mouth. And man, when I think about that kind of language, and I think, man, Jesus who came to this earth to die so that I could be forgiven. He never messed up, but He took on my sin, and He died so that I could be forgiven from it. Jesus, who has given me everything good in my life, who has done nothing but good for me, who's never failed me. And then I think that He would say He's repulsed by me because I haven't given Him my very best. That is a sobering thought for me. But if I'm going to be honest with you, and you guys know I'll be honest with you, I will open up to you. If I'm honest with you, there have been times that I realized that what I was living was a lukewarm life. I was trying to live life in this oxymoron of a lukewarm Christian. Like when Whitney and I first moved back from college. We moved back here, we moved back home, and I got hired into my first official ministry position as an associate pastor at a church. And man, it was my dream come true. I'm going to get to serve God in ministry. And in my mind, I thought this is going to be awesome. Like in my mind, I had it all built up. Like we're going to have Bible studies every day. And we're just going to walk in and there's just going to be this holy music playing. And man, the presence of God is just going to be swirling. And we're all going to be happy because church people never get mad or angry. They're always happy and they always love everything you do and everything you come up with. I thought, man, I'm just going to walk in, I'm going to sit, my Bible's just going to like levitate off the desk. My sermons are just going to write themselves. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. And then I actually started. And what happened to me, honestly, what I really think happened to me, was I let the work of the ministry replace my relationship with God. Bill Hybels, who pastors a huge mega church in Chicago and writes a lot of books, but also does a lot of work for pastors, he writes about this same kind of problem. He said this. He said, the way I was doing the work of God destroyed the work of God within me. And man, I really think that that's what happened to me. That the way I was doing the work of God destroyed the work of God within me. Because I began to realize that sometimes I would just read the Bible to get ready to preach, but not for my own growth and my own benefit. And I began to realize that, man, sometimes I was praying as much in church services as I was outside. And people would come to me and give me these needs, and I'd say, I'll pray for you. I didn't always even remember to pray for those people. And God really kind of began to deal with my heart after that fact, after I kind of got into that season. And God began to just kind of reveal this phrase to me. God kind of spoke to me and said this. He said, you've become a full-time pastor and a part-time Christian. And let me tell you, that hurts. Because I promise you, I didn't come up with that phrase on my own. But God revealed it to me. And I recognize this morning that you guys, for the most part, aren't in vocational ministry, that you guys aren't pastors. And a lot of you aren't maybe in like a visible ministry like that. But I wonder this morning if that phrase would really still apply to your lives. That maybe this morning you're a full-time mom and a part-time follower of Jesus. Or you're a full-time professional, teacher, businessman, whatever it may be, but you're a part-time follower of Jesus. Or you're a full-time student, but you're a part-time follower of Jesus. Because what I began to realize was I gave everything I had to the ministry, to the visible stuff. I did everything I could to make sure it was a great message. And if I'm being honest, man, I loved it when people would come up and be like, that was a really great message. I really liked it. In my mind, I'm like, it was. Worked real hard on that. And I was more concerned about the visible. I was more concerned about what I was doing than what God was doing inside of me, or what God wanted to do inside of me. I wonder this morning what you could put in that blank. I wonder if there's something you could say this morning that, man, I'm full-time this, and because I've become so devoted and so consumed to that, I'm really just a part-time follower of Jesus. And I'm not here to say that you need to go quit your job. I'm not here to say that you need to put your kids up for adoption. But what I'm saying is, where is the focus in your life? What is your number one concern? What is your number one pursuit this morning? What are you most concerned about? Are we most concerned about making sure we do a great job at work, making sure that our kids are happy, making sure that we have the best grades? Or are we most concerned about living a life that is not lukewarm, living a life that is just totally burning hot, that is just bubbling over hot, that pleases God, that He doesn't reject me, He doesn't want to spit me out of His mouth, but I'm giving Him my very best? Which one of those are we really living? Because I had to wake up from that. I had to wake up from that. I had to repent. And I have to check myself sometimes. Like, hey Josh, are you reading besides Romans for Wednesday night and Revelation for Sunday morning? And I have to, sometimes I have to get behind at work because I have to say, no, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to read God's Word. I'm going to see God's presence right here at my desk when I have 10 things I need to be doing. Because I want what He does in me to be more important than what I'm trying to do for Him.
Amen.
I wonder this morning, where we're really at. Because man, this is not an easy message to preach. That's not an easy text to read, especially when you really understand the depth of it. I mean, if there is one thing this morning that I do not want to be, it's lukewarm. If there's one thing that I don't want to be, it's casual. If there's one thing that I don't want to be this morning, it's a Christian atheist where, yeah, I say I believe in God, but I want my life to reflect and show people that I believe. I want my life to reflect and show people that God walks with me, that I walk with Him, that He directs what I do. And I wonder this morning, if you didn't put it as your religious views on Facebook, if you didn't have the bumper sticker on the car, if you didn't have the t-shirt, if you didn't tell people, if you didn't post it on Facebook, if If you just never said anything about it, would people know that you follow Jesus? Are we living a life where we give Him our very best, where we are just on fire for Him and what He wants to do in us? Or are we really living life in a lukewarm way where we're getting through? I'm coming to church. I'm sharing some stuff on Facebook. I believe, but I'm not totally committed. Are we living lives that are really on fire for Him? Or are we living lives that are lukewarm? Man, it's a hard text. But to give Him a life that is lukewarm is to put Him at the back of the line in our life. It is to shuffle Him and say, work is more important, family is more important, my happiness is more important. And eventually I'll get to you, God, and I'll give to you, but we don't give Him our very best. And that's what it means to live lukewarm, and I don't want to live lukewarm. There's a song that we sometimes play for an invitation, if you guys would go ahead and stand. There's a song that we sometimes play for an invitation. I want to play it this morning. It's a really simple song by a worship band named House Fires that I just totally love. And the words of this song, once it kind of gets through the intro, they say, my heart is a wick, your love is the flame, and I want to burn for you. Man, if I really want to burn for Him, I'm not going to be lukewarm. If I really want to burn for Him, then I'm going to give Him my very best. If I really want to burn for Him, I'm going to have to make choices. I might have to sacrifice occasionally in other areas of my life to give Him my very best. But man, He deserves my very best. He died for me. He doesn't deserve seconds. He doesn't deserve to be pushed to the back of the line. He deserves our very best this morning. And so this morning, I was honest with you, there's a time, there have been a couple times in my life where I've realized that, man, I'm really just kind of lukewarm. I'm not really giving God my very best, the best that I have to offer. And the best thing that you can do in those moments is just come lay it at His feet and cry out to Him and say, what the words of this song say, God, my heart is a wick, your love is a flame, and I want to burn for you. I repent that I've been living kind of this lukewarm, in-between state, but God, I don't want to live lukewarm. I don't want to live life as a Christian atheist where the only thing Christian about me is the fact that I say I'm a Christian, but I want my life to reflect and look like you live in me and I follow you. So this morning, I'll ask Dustin to play this song, and I just want us to have a simple time of response and prayer. Because I believe there's a reason that God directed me back to preach on a passage I preached on just a few weeks ago, of this church at Laodicea. And that reason is, man, God wants us to be a people of full surrender. Yes. If you remember back during revival, those of you that were at the prayer meeting, I said those were the words that God gave me, was full surrender. And I believe that so many of us, that's what God is calling us to, is to just lay it down and say, God, it's yours. And this life is yours. My finances are yours. My talents are yours. My time is yours. And God, you lead, you direct, you be the Lord of my life, and you show me how to use this life. You show me how to use what you've given me. I don't want to be lukewarm. I don't want us to be a lukewarm church. I don't want you to be a lukewarm Christian. But He'll let you be. He gave you free will. Or you can choose this morning to say, God, I want to burn for you. I don't want to be lukewarm anymore. As Dustin plays this song, man, if you need to pray, would you just come? You need to grab somebody by the hand to come and pray with you. Grab them. You need to grab me. Come grab me. But man, if you realize this morning that you're just lukewarm, make room for Him in your life. Make room for Him to be who He wants to be in your life, and just come lay it down to Him this morning.
Oh, we open up our hearts. Have your way in us. We open up our hearts. Have your way in us. Oh, whatever you want to say. Oh, whatever you want to do. Oh, whatever you want to say. Oh, whatever you want to do. Oh, my heart is a wick, your love is a flame, and I want to burn for your name. My heart Your love is a flame, and I wanna burn for your name. Oh, and I wanna burn for you, only you, only you. I wanna burn for you, only you, only you. Oh, can my heart is the wind, love is the flame, and I wanna burn for your name. My heart is the wind, your love is the flame, and I wanna burn for your name. Burn with an everlasting fire, it won't run out, it can't be put out, it can't be put out, 'cause I burn for you, I burn for you. Oh, with passion in my heart, and hope running through my veins, I will burn for you, I burn for you, Lord. With a hope and a future before me, your forgiveness all around me, and your spirit living in me, I will burn for you. Oh, and they'll see me, and they'll see you, when I burn bright for you, 'cause it's your love, and my heart is the wind. I wanna burn, 'cause my heart is the wind, your love is the flame, and I wanna burn for your name. Oh, my heart is the wind, your love is the flame, and I wanna burn. Oh, just burn tonight, yeah. My heart is the wind, your love is the flame, and I wanna burn for your name. Oh, my heart is the wind, your love is.
That's my prayer for us as we leave this morning, that our hearts would be the wicks, His love would be the flame, and that we would just burn for Him. We wouldn't be lukewarm. We wouldn't be straddling the fence. We wouldn't kind of just be whatever, but we would just be fully devoted, fully committed, just seeking after Him with our whole hearts and what He has for us and what He wants for us. Not trying to grip on the control and just try to hang out in the middle. And can we just pray that as a prayer as we leave here today? Pray that as a prayer in the days to come, as we think back, and we just ask Him to continue to move in our lives. That God, my heart is a wick, your love is the flame, and I want to burn for your name. Let's pray. God, I thank you this morning. I thank you this morning, Lord, that just like the church at Laodicea, Father, even when we don't give you our very best, even when we live lives that are lukewarm, even, Father, when we live lives that really repulse you and make you sick, that you still give us Revelation 3:20, that even after we live lives that way, Father, that you still stand at the door and knock. And you still promised us that if anyone would open that door, that you would come in. Father, I ask this morning that we would open the doors of our hearts. Father, that we would live lives where we burn in our pursuit after you. Father, that our hearts would be the wicks, that your love would be the flame, and Father, that we would burn for your name. Father, we wouldn't be lukewarm. We wouldn't be Christian atheists. We wouldn't be people who say we believe in God, but our lives kind of look otherwise. Father, we would just be sold out. That we would be committed to everything you would lead us and call us to. Help us this morning, Father, to be a people totally surrendered to what you'd have for us. Father, our hearts are the wicks. Your love is the flame. Father, we want to burn for you. And Father, I pray this morning, every person in the sound of my voice, that we would burn with a passionate, burning desire for you and for your things, for what you have for us and not for what this world has for us. Would you go with us and bless us and keep us this morning, Father. Bring us back to worship you again. We ask this all in your name. Amen.